Hey, how's it going, guys? So we're back with another Warhammer 40k video. If you're new channel, welcome. This one was requested by one of my subscribers, and he wanted me to check this out. So this is Death Corps of Krieg. Krieg. Man, I forgot how to pronounce it. But so if I said it incorrectly, I'm sorry. But maybe they'll say it in the video. Death Corps of Krieg, explained by an Australian, and it is by Majorkill. And shout out and credit goes to Majorkill for the video. And this is not the very first video I saw from him. I think the very first video that I saw from him was actually about the Dark Angels. And what I really like about Majorkill, I said Krieg, my bad. Majorkill is that he does not filter out his language. He literally just says what he wants and everything, and he explains everything. So that's what I really like about his channel. But I'm really excited to see what the Death Corps has in store, because first time I ever saw them, it looked like they were doing some sort of like gas or trench warfare from World War One, and on top of that, like they just kind of resemble like the German army back then. And besides that, let's just see what the Death Corps is all about.
G'day, guys and gal. Staunch, brave, twisted, and potentially suicidal. These admirable traits belong to none other than the legendary Death Corps of Krieg. Between picking flowers, making gas mask noises, and bludgeoning skulls, these brainwashed test tube babies are some of the best the Imperium has to offer.
That's a pretty cool image, by the way.
After all, when morale is no longer an issue, the battle is already won. Now, I wanted to make this video a while back for obvious reasons. The Death Corps of Krieg are cool as, and they get lots of views and subscribers, something I kind of need right now to keep my raging fire that is my ego alit. However, my adopted uncle Voldemort, yes, I can adopt whoever I want,
I'm kinda in the same
made
situation
a Death
right
Corps
now
video
with
that
my
was mind-blowing
subscribers.
in quality and featured the largest collaboration of Warhammer YouTubers ever seen. Tough act to follow. However, as the saying goes, just because the cow is already milked doesn't mean Majorkill can't milk it again, regardless of how much it hurts the cow. Interpret that how you will. Before we get started, the first episode of the Homebrew Adventures animated series is going live this Friday at 11 AM Australia time, 10 AM Eastern Standard Time, or 3 PM London time. If you haven't heard of me speak of this series, it's basically a fully fledged animation I've been working on with a team of people for the last few months. That is inspired by Alpha Buzz's If the Emperor Had a Text-to-Speech Device series. However, my series is very different from that in a number of ways. It follows the adventure of a group of Space Marines from various different homebrew chapters, as well as an Ultramarine, obviously, who are torn away from their chapters and forced to work together in a squadron of misfits as they attempt to kill the demon Primarch Fulgrim. I plan for this to be a massive thing for the channel, and it's already got interest from a company who are considering financing the creation of the rest of the series, depending on the success of the first episode. So if you're keen to see the result of the most effort I've ever put into a single thing, as well as support me, then come down to the premiere. I'll be going live straight after the premiere to talk about the show, its direction, answer any questions, and talk about the team. Also, Majorkill's doing pretty well. During that after stream will go towards one of the animators who helped me with the video as a big thank you, so get keen for that. Today we're going to go over who the Death Corps of Krieg are and how they ended up as the extremely grim and staunch guardsmen that they are today. We'll also go over some of their larger engagements, their war habits, as well as some fun facts about them. Let's get into it. The galaxy is a big place, and whilst everyone seems to praise the Space Marines as the single greatest power in the Imperium, the reality is there are too few and far between to cover the entire war zone. Hence, over 90% of battles and wars are fought by guardsmen. Different guardsmen regiments come from different planets, hence they have insane levels of diversity. This ranges from guardsmen who shit the bed every time they dream about the horrors they will face, all the way to literal Chuck Norris Rambos who can solo entire armies without breaking a sweat. The Death Corps of Krieg tend to end up on the upper end of that scale, as they have a complete and total lack of regard for their own safety or lives, to a point where the commissars assigned to them do not try to prevent them from retreating, but instead from randomly charging the enemy gun lines with nothing but a shovel. The people of Krieg were not always like this, however. Something pretty uncool happened to the planet which brought them to this level of matricism. See, Krieg wasn't always a radioactive death world. Once, it was a verdant, highly populated Imperial hive world, a key trading point and very wealthy. So wealthy was Krieg and so paranoid its rulers that they spent vast amounts of money on planetary defenses and private armies that were loyal to Krieg and not the Imperium that controlled it. Now when you combine paranoia, wealth and a massive ego, you get uppity little cunts. Hence the Lords of Krieg were like, what if we rebel against the Imperium? They probably won't have the resources readily available to retake it from us. which despite sounding like a really bad idea, actually wasn't. On paper. Krieg was so reinforced from outside invasion that the effort required to retake it would just not have been worth it. Hence, unsurprisingly,
Bro, look at all those guns.
Krieg, which is also the German word for war, staged a coup. The Krieg traders ambushed the Loyalists at hundreds of positions, taking over all the hive cities and key locations bar one. The Loyalists were so overwhelmed that there was little they could do to stop this well-funded succession, but the Loyalists of Krieg are based on Germans, and the Germans are great at war. Hence, they dug in and defended their last hive city. The commander of the Loyalists was a man by the name of Colonel Jurten. Starts with a J, but because he's German, the J is silent. Jurten got in contact with the Imperium.
Okay, so there is correlation with Germans.
Sorry, buddy, not worth our time and effort, you're on your own. So yeah, feel free to destroy the enemy any way you see fit. And then the Archmagos, who was with Jurten, was like, beep, boop, we have a nuke. So Jurten was like, fuck it, and channeled his inner Kim Jong-un and unleashed atomic genocide upon his own planet. See, whilst the Loyalists were wildly outnumbered and outgunned, they were prepared for a planet-wide nuclear strike. The traitors were not. Let's just say, after the world was reduced to a radioactive wasteland so toxic, it would make the Fallout games look like a holiday destination, and billions of people died. The odds were evened out. Over the next 500 years, the Loyalists and traitor survivors engaged in a violent, hectic war of attrition. Hundreds of thousands of kilometers of razor wire, trenches, and bunkers were built. Both sides became bitter and bloodthirsty. However, the Loyalists began creating their soldiers by using artificial wombs and cloning, meaning they could create large numbers of consistent troops. On top of this, every Loyalist of Krieg was told that they all owed a life debt to the Emperor due to Krieg betraying the Imperium, and that the only way they could repay that debt was by collecting 100 Nazi scalps! By violently dying after taking at least 3.5 heretic lives via shovel smacking with them. At the end of the 500 years, Krieg was nothing more than a smoking crater with thousands of bunkers beat beneath its surface. But it was once again under Imperial control.
That's a cool image.
Yay! The Imperium took note of this but didn't really care that much initially. What could have blasted Death World off of the Imperium? The answer was serious fuel for the meat grinder that is Warhammer 40k. Krieg offered up 20 fully equipped and trained regiments of guardsmen with more on the way, straight up. On top of that, these soldiers requested to be placed in the most horrific war zones available. Now before we talk about some of those wars and battles they've taken a part in, let's first dial it back and talk about the Kriegsmen and women themselves. While they are fun and badass as an army, the people of Krieg are about as fun and interesting to talk to as a junkie who just overdosed on opioids. They have no names, only numbers. They never remove their armor and face masks in the presence of non-Kriegsmen, and they are clones
so they have
of each
no
other.
identity.
Imagine they are like the clones from Star Wars, however you replace their witty quips of brotherly love for each other with 500 years of trench warfare kicked off by nuclear fire. On top of this, it's thought that the average age of the Krieg's guardsmen is really low, as they're sent off to war pretty much as soon as they are ready. If you're trained your entire life, this could be as soon as you were 16
life expectancy is low.
As they don't remove their masks
15?
and their voices likely have a Darth Vader-esque filter on them, it's really hard to tell even the gender of the Kriegsmen you might be dealing with. Overall, this really ticks a lot of diversity boxes. They're a mix of Germans, so white people, child soldiers, so Africans, clone troopers from Star Wars, so aliens, and they have no regard for human life, so Asians. I think the key to ending racism is by deploying the Death Corps of Krieg. Moving on to some of their wars and engagements now. The Death Corps of Krieg haven't been around super long despite the massive impact they have already had for the Imperium, so it might surprise you to learn that their first main engagement was the legendary Siege of Vrax. Now the Siege of Vrax was incredibly hectic and long, and I don't want this video to be 10 hours, so the gist of it was that a priest that got too religious and fell to chaos after he spent too much time hanging around orphanages at night time. He then gathered a massive army of zealots and took the planet of Vrax and fortified the living shit out of it, before declaring war on the Imperium. The Death Corps were deployed to the planet by the millions, and after 17 years of non-stop hectic warfare, attrition, and death, in which even Space Marines had to get involved in, the planet was retaken. The next main instance we see the Death Corps of Krieg was during the Fisting of Durandus. That's not what it's officially called,
that looks
that's
like
just my name for it. Basically, the Hive World of Durandus was sick of paying their taxes, so instead of just using a good accountant to claim a bunch of expenses, hence increase their profits, they declared independence from the Imperium and killed the diplomats sent in to resolve the issue. Now, declaring independence from the Imperium of Man is never a good idea. Krieg and Vrax did it, and were completely decimated via metaphorical anal maceration, and they were some of the most fortified planets in the galaxy, so a single hive city with no army or real defenses is going to have a really bad time. And have a bad time they did, as the Death Corps of Krieg simply begun shelling the city non-stop for 5 years. Anyone who tried to escape the city during this time was gunned down. After
That's a lot of ammo
years,
too.
The city declared its unconditional surrender. In response to this, the Kriegsmen continue to shell the city for another 5 years. The last 2 years of that, there wasn't a single bit of life detectable in the city, but they continued anyway. You might be like, wow, what a waste of shells. And to that I say you're missing the bigger picture. The siege, or rape of Durandus, because it wasn't really a siege, paints a very clear picture of what would happen if you rebel against the Imperium. Sure, they could have just shelled for 5 years, accepted the surrender, and then executed a bunch of people. But that sends a message that you can spit on the Imperium and live to tell the tale. No, it needed to be clear that if you deny the Imperium, not only will you die, but your family, your legacy, and your home would also die. And then when you are dead, your corpse would die, until only your ashes and dust would remain. And then your ashes and dust would be blown to smithereens. And then your smithereens would be bombed into oblivion.
Talk about double tap.
The Kriegsmen would then be put up against the Necrons, and this war would really show off their weakness and problems that emerge when you reject.
That kind of looks like
humanity.
General Grievous from the
world
distance.
of Hieronominus Thera, nailed that pronunciation, I'm getting good at this, was a Necron tomb world that began to awaken. In response to this, the Death Corps of Krieg arrived and began fighting them in a war of attrition. Now, Kriegsmen are good at attrition, but the Necrons don't need food or sleep and can self-repair. That is like attrition god mode. Despite this, the Death Corps were actually able to hold them back and even figure out where the Necron command center was. All they had to do was drop off an atomic weapon there, and then bang, the Necrons would go away. Unfortunately for the Kriegsmen, being total dicks to the entire planet and executing hundreds of Planetary Defense Force soldiers because they didn't like being retrained to become Kriegsmen resulted in them being the bad guys. To a point where, on the way to blow up the Necron command nexus, the Kriegsmen were ambushed and fought off by the local human populace who had embraced the Necrons as their gods and saviors from the invading armies of Krieg.
So they had
Fair
two
enough.
enemies.
Hence the soldiers of Krieg were like, fuck this, and left, allowing the Necrons to take the planet and likely sodomize the human population there. However, this war would not be a waste, as the knowledge they gained fighting the Necrons would prove invaluable in the Offrian War. The Necrons attacked Aramar Prime. The Death Corps arrived, and when the main Necron invasion struck, the only force that was not able to repel the Necron assault, but then was able to lead a counterattack which crippled the Necron army, was the Death Corps. Nice.
Because of their experience and knowledge.
Would go on to fight Tyranids, Tau, Kroot, more Tyranids, and Orcs. They would even take a part in the Third War for Armageddon and drive back and win the day many times. The thing is about the Kriegsmen is they aren't actually brave. Being brave is confronting and overcoming your fears through action. Kriegsmen have no fear. If they're told to charge a Titan armed with nothing but a shovel, they will do it, not out of a sense of bravery, because that is what they've been commanded to do. They are literally cold machines who have been programmed to destroy the enemies of the Imperium, and destroy them they do. They regard human life in the same way they regard ammunition and vehicles, as a resource that needs to be expended. They even ride horses and lead cavalry charges in the 41st millennium. Like, bruh, hell yeah. There's a reason why everyone loves the Death Corps,
Looks like a horseman of
and there's
apocalypse.
also a reason why we are putting them into the Warhammer 40k squad mod that me and a big team of modders are working on creating. They're incredibly badass, and if you still aren't convinced, then listen. In a galaxy with demons the size of buildings, with weapons that can destroy entire star systems, with titans that tower over battlefields and men that can level entire cities with just their mind, a Death Corps guardsman need only a shovel to bring the Emperor's justice upon his enemies. And that does us for today, guys. The lore of the Death Corps of
Just a
Krieg,
shovel.
and why you should pick up a shovel and gas mask and bludgeon your enemies to death. As a disclaimer, I am not responsible for said bludgeonings. If you enjoyed the video, want to see some hentai, and want to support the channel, then Patreon is the place to be.
Here we go.
$1 per month gives you access to most of the goodies, and $10 gives you access to the Majorkill hentai calendar. Hit the subscribe button, then hit the real subscribe button for more happy gas mask
It's always
noises.
the Patreon that gets
Join
me.
the Discord for more memes, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.
Okay, so that was really great by Majorkill, but I say what was new in this one was the fact that I didn't get to see him at all, like his face, because in the past videos I managed to see his face and all that, but in this one it was just like a voiceover. or like commentary, I should say. But he did a great job, and the Death Corps, yeah, just give them a shovel and they'll pretty much just fight to the end. But either way, there was a correlation between that and Germans, like I said, because I kept on comparing them to like the German army back in World War One and trench warfare and all that. But yeah, it looks like gas mask and those helmets are like their signature look, and shovels and I guess rifles with bayonets on them are their like signature weapons. So this was a really great video. So shout out to Majorkill as always for doing a great job at his videos. And thank you so much for the recommendation. So that's all I got today, guys. So thank you so much for tuning in. I really do appreciate it. Thank you guys for watching. And make sure to hit that notification bell so you know when I drop another video. And thank you so much for your support, guys. I really do appreciate it. It means everything to me. Shout out to all my members, subscribers, viewers. You guys are all amazing. So until then, I'll see you guys next time.